Yo, yo, what is up, gentlemen and gentle ladies? Gentle women? Gentle human beings. Welcome, all of humankind. You are welcome to this discussion that we will have about Ghost in the Shell. The new movie that just came out is an adaptation of the 1995 anime Ghost in the Shell, and this live action version stars Scarlett Johansson. Is it any good? Let's get to it. So, first of all, let's start with what's good. The movie looks beautiful. It's gorgeous. The cinematography, the framing, on point. It's a great looking movie. It has those classic sprawling, scenic vistas in the cyberpunk style. You know, big tall skyscrapers, just covered in neon billboards and holograms. Blade Runner style, Ghost in the Shell style, if you've seen the anime. Just gorgeous. Sometimes it can seem a little glossy and fake, and it's almost like the world doesn't necessarily feel lived in. They'll cut sometimes from these big panning vistas of the city, and then they'll go into an exterior shot where it's just a couple characters in a room. And it's a bit of a disconnect, but nothing major. Major, that's the character's name. It's not too detrimental. It's a beautiful movie. There's a shot in this film that I think is just amazing, where Aramaki is going out to the parking garage. He's got a car parked out there, and spoilers, some assassins are coming after him. He knows they're coming, so he's getting ready. And the establishing shot is just beautiful. It's from above, and there's these fluorescent bulbs hanging above the parking lot. Beautiful, beautiful scene. Loved it a lot. It's not a major scene, but I really thought that was a great scene. The framing was amazing. So the film makes some changes from the anime. So let's talk about the anime briefly. So I probably saw Ghost in the Shell, the anime, in 97, 98, 99, sometime around that area, back when I was living that weeb life. I was weebing pretty hard back then. Loved the anime, but the internet wasn't as prevalent back then, so if you wanted to watch anime, you had to go to Blockbuster, the video store, and man, that was still VHS days, so you had to rent your anime on VHS. And they usually had a pretty terrible selection. Just basic staples of anime. Ghost in the Shell, Akira, Dragon Ball Z, Cowboy Bebop, Speed Racer, Trigun maybe if you're lucky. Gundam Wing maybe. Stuff like that. So let's see if I'm smart enough to talk about Ghost in the Shell. So it's got some pretty heady themes. It's a big metaphysical movie, big into existentialism. What is the nature of consciousness and self in a post-human society when you can upload your mind to a machine, when you can download your thoughts, when you can edit your thoughts, when someone else can hack your thoughts and give you memories that you don't even have. What is self? What is consciousness? Is consciousness just a byproduct of your own memories? And if your memories can be affected from external sources, then what happens is does that kill yourself, and then you're just, you're a damaged replication of who you actually are, but the real version is long dead? Tons of metaphysical questions about that, and AI, and if uploading your mind into a machine, are you still human? And if you're still human, then is an AI human? Does it have self-awareness and consciousness? And if it does, is it entitled to the same rights as a human? Is it entitled to the same protection and the same laws that a human being would be? So those are some of the themes in the 95 anime, but this movie, the live action movie, it makes some pretty significant changes. So not all that is on the table. I think it's detrimental to the movie, the changes they made. In the anime, the I don't know. I was going to say the adversary or the antagonist, but not necessarily the case. Spoilers. Is this character called the Puppet Master? They're after the Puppet Master. He's a hacker. Lo and behold, we find out that it is a rogue AI. So I think it's Sector 6 is I think the name of the organization. They created this. They created this program to spy. It's an intelligence gathering program to spy on people and gather information, and somehow they think they say it's a bug, and he says I'm conscious now. It developed into a self-aware being, and it's trying to survive. That's not in the live action version at all. In the live action version, they've replaced the Puppet Master with ostensibly just a prototype of Major. But so all of those questions that the anime was asking are off the table. Because this new character, I don't even remember what his name is because he's stupid. But he was a human. If you're not aware of the source material, Major, who's the character that Scarlett Johansson plays, she is a cyborg. She has a completely cybernetic body, but she has a human brain. So she's a bit angsty about that, but it's really subtle and nuanced in the anime. And for the most part, Scarlett Johansson's performance is as well, but the movie is not very subtle or nuanced, so they ask a ton of questions, and the character, all the side characters are always asking like, "Oh, are you actually? What does it mean to be a human?" Like all this nonsense. So I think it was a mistake altering the characters this way. The Puppet Master character in the anime is much more important than whatever. I think his name's Kuwasaga or something. I literally can't remember, which is not a good sign. So in the anime, it's not important who Major was before she became Major. What was her life before her brain was in the robot? We don't know. The movie doesn't care. The anime doesn't care, rather. The movie cares because that's all they fucking can talk about. Who was I before? It's so important. It's not important at all in the anime. She's Major. Who she was before is irrelevant. We don't even know necessarily if she was a woman before she became Major. I haven't seen any of the subsequent animes. I've seen the first one. As far as I'm concerned, it's a standalone story. So if this is stuff that they've borrowed from the subsequent movies and just try to ram it all into one movie, you'll have to forgive me. I've only seen the first one. Even if that's the case, I don't think it works as well. If they wanted to do it, they should have hoped they get a sequel and waited. Because I think it is a mess, some of the stuff they're doing. It's almost like they didn't trust the audience enough to be subtle and nuanced with the plot of the movie, because they're really hammering home a lot of the stuff. There's a lot of ancillary characters that are pretty extraneous that weren't in the anime that they've added in to deliver exposition that's pretty trite. And ultimately, those characters just take time away from the characters that were in the anime that are actually important. A lot of them don't get the time they deserve. And the relationships between the characters from the anime aren't as well developed in the live action version, particularly the relationship between Major and Bato. That particularly the end of the movie. How I don't want to spoil too much because I still think it's worth seeing. It sounds like I'm pretty down on it, and it's just because it doesn't live up to the anime. I'm having a hard time separating it and looking at them as individual things. Because the anime is a classic movie, and I really love all that, the metaphysics and the existentialism and the themes that it explores. And it just kind of this movie drops the ball on that, and I don't know. Yeah. And I can understand, because it's not necessarily something that's palatable to the general film audience. You want something that's easier to digest, and I can get that. I think it was a bad choice, but a lot of the set pieces you remember from the anime are in the live action version in some way or another. It has the spider tank and the scene when Major is chasing the invisible guy, and he has the in the anime he had like high velocity bullets or something. I don't think he just had bullets in this, and they fight. She fights him invisible in the pool of water, like that's in here, and it looks great. Like the movie looks great. Everything about it looks great. The cinematography's great. Again, the fight choreography is great. But it's kind of like they just shuffled around the set pieces that they wanted to get in the movie. They changed it up. The spider tank scene, I think they changed the most, and they changed it in a way that affects the relationships of the character. It doesn't play out the same way it does in the anime, with Bato coming to save Major. And then we don't have that scene that we had in the anime where Bato like sacrifices his arm to save Major from getting sniped. So, you know, the bond, we still kind of feel the bond, but it's not as powerful. Yeah. The more I'm thinking about it, the more down I am on the movie, it seems like. But when I left the theater, I liked it. Maybe I'll have to see it again. Scarlett Johansson's performance is pretty good. It's pretty, it's more or less on point with what Major was like in the anime, in the parts that are similar to that, but there's also a ton of ancillary shit where we're exploring the past. Like, who was Major? She's trying to find out who she was before, even though it doesn't matter, because it matters in this movie. And so let's talk, there's a bit of the controversy about whitewashing. You know, it's an anime, so is everyone in the anime supposed to be Asian? Who knows? Scarlett Johansson looks like Major, so as far as I'm concerned, you know, go on with your life. But some people have a conniption when you cast an anime with a character that's not Asian. You know, I don't think it's a big deal. I think she did a good job. She definitely looked the part, and that's important. But it's almost like to focus on that, it almost misses the point of the movie, and at least the anime. The live action movie's not as into the dynamics of humanity and race and identity the anime was, and who she was before is not supposed to matter, but it does with this movie. So maybe whitewashing does matter. I don't know. Yeah, should you see it for yourself? I would say yes. Maybe catch a matinee, go on Cheap Tuesday when it's half price. I'm not sure I would recommend paying full price to see it in the movie theater. It's beautiful and it looks great. So if you just want to see a visual spectacle, maybe check it out. If you can wait, you know, watch it on Netflix or rent it or something. Up to you. Peace.